Hi, welcome to Tuesday Tea Time. My name is Helga Lininger. I have been a member of the St. Bonaventure Parish since 1977. In fact, that year my son received his first Holy Communion and Father Tom Gallagher was the pastor at that time. It's really hard to believe it's been 44 years. But anyway, this room serves not only as an office, but also as my sanctuary. I come in here to pray, to attend live stream masses, or to just find peace and solace. And my most favorite artifact is the heart of Jesus. It came from Germany and belonged to my Aunt Rosa. But this is not the focus today. What I do want to talk about are Hummels. What are Hummels? My definition is they are porcelain figurines of little children with pudgy faces. You know, so many times I hear people say, "Oh, my grandmother left me some Hummels," or they're just sitting on the shelves or in a cabinet. And most recently, I heard that the parents lived in Germany for some time and they brought Hummels back with them. And I'm by no means an expert, but if I can shed some light on the history of these little guys, I think you out there who own Hummels will appreciate them even more than you have in the past. So let's get started. The figurines were inspired by a German nun named Maria Innocentia Hummel. There is the word Hummel. Was the nun's last name. It means bumblebee, die Hummel in German. And I will talk a little bit more about that later. But first about the artist. Her given name was Bertha. She was born in May of 1909 in the town of Massing, and it's in Niederbayern, the lower Bavaria of Germany. She was third of 6 children. Her parents recognized early on that Bertha had a wonderful gift, an instinct for observing her world and translating her observations into drawings. Her creativity was also recognized by one of her teachers, Sister Teresa, who wrote a letter of recommendation to the Institute of English Sisters, a very well-known boarding school in the area. There she developed an interest in watercolor, and she worked very hard in improving and perfecting her sketching technique. Her mentor there, Sister Stefania, not only gave her encouragement and the confidence she needed to be an artist. Bertha received religious education and inspiration as well. By 1925, Bertha was in her final year at the Institute of English Sisters, and in spite of Germany's political, economic, and cultural uncertainty, Bertha was accepted at the Academy of Applied Arts in Munich, which provided her with still more training for a career. In 1929, Hitler's National Socialist Party was on the rise, and Bertha feared for the future as an artist. she had befriended two Franciscan nuns who were also studying at the academy. A real conflict was developing within her, and she turned with greater need to the quiet, withdrawn life of her two religious friends from the Franciscan convent at Season, which is a teaching order that emphasized the arts. By the time of graduation in March 1931, Berta had resolved the conflict within her, and she decided to join the Franciscan order. 2 years later, she was ordained Sister Maria Innocentia of the Sisters of the Third Order of St. Francis. At the convent, she taught art, and she continued doing sketches of religious art. From observing the children that came to the grounds at the convent, and also from images from her growing up years, she developed a style that would capture the innocence and purity of the young child. Her works became so well known that several German companies made postcards out of her art. These charming cards came to the attention of Franz Goebel, the head of the Goebel Porzellanfabrik in Rödental, Germany. He had been searching for some time for a series of figures that everyone could afford and enjoy. He was granted permission from Sister Innocentia and the convent to translate the sketches into three-dimensional form. And so the alliance of Sister Maria Innocentia, the convent, and the Goebel factory was born. But dark clouds were hanging over Germany when the Second World War broke out. In 1940, the Nazi government closed the convent and made it a refugee camp for German nationals from other countries. Sister Maria Innocentia was one of the few nuns who remained at the convent to take care of the refugees. And terribly overcrowded conditions forced her to move into a small, damp basement room. She became very ill, and by 1944 she was admitted to a sanitarium with chronic tuberculosis. After the war ended, she went back to the convent to help with the immense task of rebuilding. Although her spirit was strong as ever, her physical condition deteriorated, and on November 6, 1946, Sister Maria Innocentia had drawn her last breath. But her spirit lives on in the hundreds of artworks she left behind for all of us to enjoy. So let's look a little more closely at some of the figurines. Most of them are to be just looked at and enjoyed. Others have a functional purpose, like the vase, the bookends. This is a music box, a bell, some Christmas tree decorations. This is my oldest figurine. These pictures are a perfect example of how a three-dimensional figurine can be made. This is the same figurine, can be made out of a sketch. Earlier, I said I would talk a little more about the bumblebee. First, every figurine has the nun's signature, M.I. Hummel, and also every figurine has a bumblebee. By the end of 1935, 46 figurines in the Hummel collection had been released by Goebel. During the war years, production had come to a standstill, but started up again slowly after the war, when the U.S. occupied Germany. The GIs loved the figurines for their innocent childhood themes, and they soon discovered that they could trade cigarettes, chocolate, chewing gum, canned foods, and many other hard-to-get items for figurines. The popularity of the Hummel figurines even spread through the chain of command among the U.S. Armed Forces, and collecting them became a pastime for off-duty GIs, for officers and their wives. The American government even went so far as to mention collecting Hummels in the U.S. Army's What to Do in Germany guidebook. And as soldiers completed their tour of duty and went back to the U.S., so did thousands of these bartered or purchased figurines. So far, over 500 different figurines have been released, and it's interesting to know that to this day, the convent has full control over the number and selection of Sister Maria's sketches to be authorized for production. Every figurine goes through an approval process by the convent, and if it does not capture the sister's interpretation of the spirit of the sketch, it's back to the drawing board. And I understand that Mother Superior can be very convincing to get her point across. I was fortunate to visit the convent at Season in Germany in 1999. This is the chapel at the convent, and this is Sister Maria Innocentia's grave at the convent. I also visited the Goebel factory, and this guy, called the Mary Wanderer, is in larger than size in front of the factory. You know, sometimes when I walk into this room deep in thought, and I look at the figurines and their faces, somehow their faces come to life. And in my wildest imagination, I can hear them chatter and giggle. And I just forget all the outside world that goes on. So I hope that this presentation is helpful and that you enjoy your Hummels as much as I do. If you have any questions or would like more information, feel free to contact me through the church office. Thank you.